Hey there. Welcome back. Or if you're new here, welcome. Tonight, we're going back to Colonial America to experience what daily life was really like. No modern conveniences, no electricity. Just survival, hard work, and the small comforts that made it all worthwhile. All right, now get comfortable. Adjust your pillow. Pull up your blankets. Take a slow, deep breath. Let your body sink into the mattress. We're about to step back in time together to a world that moved slower, worked harder, and lived closer to the rhythms of nature. Get comfortable. Tonight we're going back to Colonial America, and we're starting with something simple. Just waking up. No alarm clocks. No phones buzzing. Just you, opening your eyes in the 1700s. So here's the thing. You don't wake up to an alarm. That doesn't exist yet. You wake up because the sun is coming through your window. And by window, I mean a small opening in the wall, because glass is crazy expensive. Most people can't afford it. So you've got wooden shutters instead, or maybe some oiled paper, stretched across the opening that lets in a cloudy kind of light. The first thing you notice isn't what you see, it's what you smell. Wood smoke. It's everywhere. Every house has a fire going, or trying to get one going, because fire is basically life here. No fire means no cooking, no heat, no light after dark. So yeah, everything smells like smoke. You, your clothes, your house, your neighbors. After a while, you stop noticing it. It just becomes the background smell of existence. You're lying on what passes for a bed. It's not great, honestly. It's a wooden frame with ropes strung across it, kind of like a net. And on top of that is a thin mattress stuffed with straw or corn husks. The ropes have stretched out overnight, so you're basically lying in a saggy hammock made of pokey plant material. Your back hurts. Everyone's back hurts in the morning here. That's just normal. The room is dim. Even with the shutters open, there's not much light yet. The sun is just starting to come up, painting everything in that soft golden color that makes even a rough cabin look pretty for a minute. You can hear sounds starting around you. Someone's already up. Probably the woman of the house, because her day starts earliest. She's got to get the fire going again. It died down overnight to just glowing coals. And now she's feeding it little sticks and bits of kindling, coaxing it back to life. This is actually skilled work. If the fire goes completely out, she'll have to walk to a neighbor's house to get live coals to restart it. Matches won't be invented for another 100 years or so. Outside, you can hear roosters. Lots of roosters. Every family keeps chickens because eggs are important, and that occasional chicken dinner is a real treat. The roosters are letting everyone know the sun is coming up, like they're the world's first alarm clocks. Loud, annoying alarm clocks that you can't turn off. There's also the sound of other animals. Maybe a cow lowing somewhere, the snort of pigs, dogs barking. Animals aren't pets here, they're walking food supplies. So people keep them close to the house where they can protect them from wild animals and thieves. Your stomach rumbles. That's actually good news. It means you're not one of the many people who went to bed hungry last night. But it also means it's time to get up, because getting food on the table here is an all-day job. You swing your legs out of bed and your feet hit the floor. It's cold. Really cold. The floor isn't wood, it's just packed dirt that's been pounded down until it's smooth and hard. It's practical, sure. Easy to sweep, doesn't cost anything. But man, it's always cold. And when it rains really hard, sometimes water seeps up from below, Fun times, the cold air hits you like a slap. There's no heat except for that one fireplace, and it died down overnight. You can literally see your breath in the air, making little puffs of steam. Even in summer, mornings are chilly. In winter, people wake up to frost on the inside of their walls and ice in their water buckets. Here's something that might surprise you. You're wearing the same clothes you wore yesterday, and the day before, and the day before that. Not because you're lazy. It's because most people own exactly one set of everyday clothes. Maybe two if they're lucky. One for regular work, one for church on Sundays. That's it. The clothes are rough. Scratchy wool or thick linen, all woven and sewn by hand. They smell like smoke and sweat and just general human existence. But here's the thing, everyone smells the same, so nobody notices. Your nose just tunes it out. Like how you stop hearing the hum of a refrigerator after a while. You walk to the window and push the shutters open wider. The sun is coming up now, spreading golden light across everything. You can see other houses scattered around, all pretty much like yours. Small, wooden, with steep roofs. Some are made with wattle and daub, which is basically sticks woven together like a basket, then covered with a mixture of mud, straw, and sometimes animal dung. It dries hard and actually works pretty well as walls. The landscape looks different than you'd expect. There are tree stumps everywhere, huge ones. Clearing land is back-breaking work that takes forever, so people just cut down trees and leave the stumps to rot. The fields are planted around them. Corn, wheat, whatever, will hopefully keep everyone fed through winter. You can see smoke rising from chimneys all around. Everyone's doing the same thing right now. Getting that fire going. Making sure there's warmth and a way to cook food and light when darkness comes. The air is crisp. Clean, in a way. Well, cleanish. There's that earthy smell underneath everything. The smell of a world where people and animals live close together, where nobody bathes much, where life is just earthier than you're used to. But you know what? The people here aren't miserable. They're just living. This is the only life they know. They wake up, they get to work, they find small joys where they can. A warm fire, a full belly, another day survived. And that's how mornings begin in Colonial America. Simple, quiet, cold, with the promise of a long day of work ahead. And the satisfaction of being alive in a world where that's actually an achievement worth celebrating. All right, let's talk about where people actually live in Colonial America. And spoiler alert, it's way smaller than you're imagining. The house you woke up in is probably just 1 or 2 rooms, total. That's it. And it's home to maybe 8 or 10 people. Parents, kids, grandparents, maybe a servant or two if the family can afford help. Everyone lives in the same space. Privacy. That's not really a thing yet. The main room is where everything happens. Cooking, eating, working, living, sometimes even sleeping. It's all in one space. There might be a small bedroom off to the side for the parents, but often everyone just sleeps in the same room. Kids on the floor, adults on those saggy rope beds we talked about. The walls are thick. If it's a log cabin, you can see where each log was notched and fitted together. The gaps between logs are stuffed with moss, clay, or more of that mud and straw mixture to keep wind from blowing through. It doesn't always work. On windy days, you can feel cold air sneaking in through cracks. If it's a nicer house, The walls might be made with that wattle and daub technique. Thin sticks woven together, then plastered over with mud mixed with animal hair and possibly dung. Sounds gross, but it actually creates surprisingly strong walls. Sometimes you can still see handprints in the dried mud, where someone pressed too hard while smoothing it. The ceiling is low, really low. Tall people have to duck. This isn't a design choice, it's practical. Lower ceilings mean less space to heat, and heating is expensive. Every bit of warmth from that fireplace counts. Speaking of the fireplace, it dominates the room. It's huge, big enough that you could almost walk into it. This is the heart of the home, literally. It provides heat, light, and a way to cook food. Without it, the family couldn't survive. The hearth is made of stone or brick, and it's always slightly warm from the fire. Kids like to sit near it, especially on cold mornings. The mantel above might hold a few precious items. Maybe a pewter candlestick, some wooden bowls, or a Bible if the family can read. Furniture is minimal and handmade. There's probably a rough wooden table with benches instead of chairs. Chairs are actually kind of fancy. If the family has one, it's usually for the head of household. Everyone else sits on benches or stools. There might be a chest or two for storing clothes and valuable items. These chests are made from thick wood, often with simple iron hinges. They double as seats when needed. Everything has multiple purposes here. Nothing is just decorative. The floor, like we mentioned, is usually packed dirt. Some wealthier families have wooden planks, and that's considered pretty nice. The dirt floors are actually practical. They're easy to sweep, they don't cost anything, and they stay relatively cool in summer. But yeah, they're always cold in winter. Windows are small, really small. This is partly to save heat and partly because, again, glass is expensive. Most families have wooden shutters they can close to keep out rain, wind, and cold. But closing the shutters means it gets dark inside, so it's always a trade-off. Light or warmth, pick one. Some families stretch oiled paper or thin cloth across the window openings. This lets in some cloudy light while keeping out most of the weather. It's not great, but it's better than nothing. The roof above is probably thatched. Layers and layers of dried straw or reeds, woven together tightly. A good thatched roof can last decades and keeps the house surprisingly dry, but it requires maintenance. Birds like to pull out straw for their nests, and storms can damage it. Up in the roof space, there might be a loft where kids sleep. It's hot in summer, freezing in winter, and you have to climb a ladder to get up there. But hey, it's a separate space, which is kind of luxurious. Storage is creative. Things hang from pegs on the walls. Clothes, tools, bags of dried herbs. The rafters might have bunches of onions or dried corn hanging from them. Everything is kept off the floor to protect it from mice and dampness. There's no bathroom, obviously. That's what the outhouse is for, that little wooden shed about 50 feet from the house. Inside is a wooden bench with a hole cut in it, positioned over a deep pit in the ground. No toilet paper. People use corn cobs, old rags, or smooth stones. In winter, going to the outhouse is genuinely miserable. At night, people use chamber pots. These are basically ceramic or metal bowls that serve as indoor toilets. Every morning, someone has to empty them, usually out the nearest window or door, which explains why walking too close to houses can be hazardous. The house smells like wood smoke, cooking food, and people. Lots of people living in close quarters without much washing. but everyone's house smells the same. So it's just normal. Despite being small and simple, these houses represent months of hard work. Every piece of wood was cut and shaped by hand. Every nail was made by a blacksmith. Every part of the house was built with skill and effort. And you know what? People are proud of their homes. It's shelter. It's safety. It's where families gather and life happens. It might not be big or fancy, but it's theirs. And in a world where survival isn't guaranteed, having 4 walls and a roof is actually something to celebrate. So that's home in colonial America. Small, simple, shared, and always slightly smoky. Let's talk about getting dressed in colonial America. It's not like throwing on jeans and a t-shirt. It's more complicated, and scratch, i.e. R. First thing you need to know is that clothes are really, really valuable. Most people own 1, maybe 2 sets of clothes for everyday wear. That's it. You're not opening a closet full of options. You're putting on the same thing you wore yesterday. If you're a man or boy, getting dressed is relatively simple. You start with a linen shirt. It's loose, long, and made from rough fabric that feels like wearing a burlap sack. This shirt is basically your underwear and your outerwear combined. It goes down to about mid-thigh. Over that, you might wear a waistcoat. That's like a vest, made of wool or heavy linen. It buttons up the front, or sometimes ties with laces. This adds warmth and a little bit of style if you care about that sort of thing. Then come the breeches. These are like shorts that end just below the knee. They're held up with buttons or ties, because elastic doesn't exist yet. Getting the fit right is tricky. Too loose and they fall down. Too tight and you can't move properly. Stockings go on next. Long socks, basically, that cover your legs from foot to knee. They're made of wool or thick cotton, and they're held up with garters. Little straps that tie around your leg to keep the stockings from sliding down. It's annoying, but it's what everyone does. Shoes are simple leather affairs. They're not shaped for left or right foot, just sort of generic foot-shaped. They wear in over time and eventually conform to your feet. But new shoes are pretty uncomfortable. And expensive. Really expensive. Some people go barefoot most of the year to save their shoes for special occasions. If you're a woman or girl, getting dressed is a whole production. It takes longer and involves more layers. You start with a shift. This is a long linen nightgown type thing that goes all the way to your ankles. It's your underwear, basically. Like the men's shirts. It's made of rough linen that's not exactly comfortable but is practical and washable. Next come the stays. This is the colonial version of a corset. It's made with strips of wood or whalebone sewn into heavy fabric, and it laces up the front or back. The stays shape your torso, give you support, and basically squeeze you into the fashionable silhouette of the time. They're not as extreme as Victorian corsets, but they're still pretty restrictive. Breathing deeply is a challenge. Over the stays goes a petticoat, or several petticoats if it's cold or if you want to look like you have some social status. These are basically skirts made of linen or wool. They add warmth and volume to your shape. Then comes the actual dress. It's usually made in 2 pieces. A bodice that covers your torso and a skirt that goes over the petticoats. The bodice might lace or pin closed. The skirt ties at the waist. Nothing is as simple as zippers and buttons, because those haven't been invented in any useful way yet. An apron goes over everything. This isn't decorative, it's practical. The apron protects your dress from all the dirty work you're about to do. Cooking, cleaning, working in the garden, whatever. The apron takes the abuse, so your actual dress stays relatively clean. Women keep their hair covered almost all the time. A cap or bonnet is standard. This serves multiple purposes. It keeps hair cleanish. It's considered modest and proper, and honestly, it hides the fact that nobody washes their hair very often. Now, let's talk about personal care, or the lack of it. Most people don't bathe. Like, almost never. Maybe a few times a year, if that. This isn't because they're lazy or don't care. It's because people genuinely believe that bathing is dangerous. Doctors of the time think that water can weaken your body or make you sick. They believe your natural body oils and even dirt protect you from illness. So what do people do? They wash their faces and hands. That's pretty much it. Using a cloth and a basin of cold water. You wipe down your face and hands once a day, maybe twice if you're particularly fastidious. Your body from neck to toe might not see soap and water for months. Maybe not all year. Full body bathing is reserved for babies. And even then, it's more about toughening them up than getting them clean. Hair care is minimal. Women brush and rebraid their hair, but washing it with soap is rare. Men might keep their hair short or even shave their heads and wear wigs instead. Wigs can be cleaned more easily than real hair, and they can be taken off if they get too full of lice. Oh yeah, lice. Everyone has lice. Absolutely everyone. Body lice, head lice, clothes lice. They're just part of life. People try to control them by combing their hair with fine-toothed combs and boiling their clothes occasionally. But getting rid of lice completely is basically impossible. Teeth are cleaned by rubbing them with a cloth. Maybe with some salt or crushed herbs if you're fancy. Toothbrushes exist but are rare and expensive. Most people just deal with bad teeth until they fall out. The smell situation is what you'd expect. Everyone smells like unwashed human, wood smoke, and whatever work they've been doing. But since everyone smells the same, your nose adapts. It becomes background scent, like how you stop noticing the smell of your own house. Clean clothes are more important than clean bodies. People change their linen undergarments when they can, because changing the layer closest to your skin is believed to be almost as good as bathing. The outer clothes might go months without washing because the process is so labor-intensive. So yeah, getting dressed in colonial America is a whole thing. Lots of layers, rough fabrics, minimal washing, and a generous acceptance of how humans naturally smell. Fashion is less about looking good, and more about staying warm and protecting your body from the elements and from the work you're about to do. And honestly, people don't think much about it. This is just normal life. Time to talk about breakfast. Get ready to lower your expectations. The most common breakfast in colonial America is something called mush. It's basically porridge made from cornmeal and water. Sometimes milk if the cow is producing. That's it. No sugar, no cinnamon, no fun toppings. Just cooked cornmeal. If you're lucky, there might be a tiny bit of molasses or honey to sweeten it. But sugar is incredibly expensive, like luxury item expensive, so most families almost never have it. The mush is just bland, filling, and practical. It gives you calories and energy for the day of hard work ahead. Making this simple breakfast is still a production. First, someone had to get the fire going again. That's usually the woman of the house, and she's been up for a while already, coaxing yesterday's coals back to life with small sticks and kindling. Once the fire is going strong enough, she hangs a heavy iron pot over it. These pots are seriously heavy, cast iron, thick, with a handle that lets them hang from a hook. Moving them around requires real strength. Water for the mush has to be carried from somewhere. Maybe a well in the yard, maybe a stream, maybe a rain barrel where water collects and sits. There are no taps, no faucets, no indoor plumbing at all. Every drop of water used in the house is carried in by hand, bucket by bucket. This makes you really conscious of water. You don't waste it. You use as little as possible because you're the one who has to carry more when it runs out. The cornmeal gets stirred into the water once it's warm. Then you stir and keep stirring. If you don't, it burns on the bottom and tastes terrible. So you stand there by the hot fire, stirring this pot of bubbling mush, while the heat radiates into your face and smoke occasionally blows into your eyes. Cooking over an open fire is genuinely dangerous. Sparks fly. The fire is unpredictable. Your clothes can catch fire if you're not careful. Burns are incredibly common, and a serious burn can kill you because there are no antibiotics. No real medical care beyond hope and prayer while the mush cooks. There might be other breakfast items if the family is doing well. Bread from yesterday, maybe. Bread doesn't go bad as fast when it's homemade from simple ingredients. It gets hard and stale, but you can dip it in your mush or milk to soften it. Eggs, if the chickens are laying well. Colonial chickens are smaller and less predictable than modern ones. They don't lay every single day like clockwork. So eggs are valued when you get them. Milk, fresh from that morning's milking. It's warm, frothy, and tastes different than modern milk. Kind of richer and more animal-flavored, if that makes sense. There's no pasteurization, so you're drinking it raw with all the bacteria intact. Most people's stomachs are used to it, but visitors from other areas sometimes get sick. Eating utensils are basic. You probably eat from a wooden bowl or a trencher, which is just a thick piece of wood with a hollowed-out section for food. Spoons exist, usually made of wood or pewter. Forks are rare. Knives are for cutting, not eating. Most people just use their hands or use bread to scoop up food. The family eats together, sitting at that rough wooden table on benches. There's not a lot of talking. Everyone's focused on eating because food is fuel, and there's work to do. After breakfast, the dishes need washing. This means heating more water over the fire, using harsh soap that's made from animal fat and lye, and scrubbing the bowls and pot with rags. The soap is so harsh it can burn your skin if you're not careful. Often, dishes aren't really washed in a modern sense. They're just scraped clean and wiped out. The same pot might be used for breakfast, then lunch, then dinner without proper washing in between. Everything picks up flavors from the previous meal. Food preparation is a constant job. There's always something that needs doing. Corn needs shucking. Beans need shelling. Vegetables need chopping. Meat needs preserving. Bread needs baking. It never ends. The kitchen area is just one end of the main room where the big fireplace is. There are no counters, no cabinets, no modern conveniences. Everything is stored in barrels, baskets, or hanging from hooks. Flour in a barrel, dried beans in a basket, salted meat hanging from a rafter. Keeping food safe is a constant challenge. There's no refrigeration. Meat goes bad fast, so it has to be eaten immediately or preserved by smoking, salting, or drying. Milk sours within a day in warm weather. Vegetables rot quickly unless stored in cool cellars or preserved by pickling. The rhythm of food preparation follows the seasons. In spring and summer, there's fresh food. Greens from the garden, new vegetables, fresh milk and eggs. But fall is all about preservation, turning summer's abundance into food that will last through winter. This means smoking meat in smokehouses, packing pork in barrels with salt, making pickles and preserves, drying fruits and vegetables, storing root vegetables in cellars, and constantly worrying about whether there will be enough to last until spring. Winter food is monotonous. Salted meat, dried beans, stored root vegetables, maybe some preserved fruits if you're lucky. The same meals repeat over and over. But it keeps you alive, which is the main goal. Cooking skills are passed down from mother to daughter, generation after generation. Women learn by watching and helping from the time they're little girls. By the time they're running their own households, they know instinctively how to manage a fire when bread dough has risen enough, and how to stretch limited ingredients into filling meals. The fireplace is always the center of everything. It's where food transforms from raw ingredients into meals. It's where water gets heated for cleaning and washing. It's where the family gathers for warmth. Managing it well is a skill that takes years to master, and every single meal, no matter how simple, represents hours of work. Work to grow the food, work to preserve it, work to prepare it, work to cook it, work to clean up after. Nothing is quick. Nothing is convenient. Everything requires effort and skill and time. But when that bowl of mush is sitting in front of you, warm and filling, and your family is gathered around the table, alive and together for another day, that's actually pretty satisfying. Now we get to the main event, work, because that's what colonial life mostly is. Work from sunrise to sunset, every single day. If you're on a farm, which most people are, your day revolves around whatever the season demands. Right now, let's say it's summer. The crops are growing and they need constant attention. The men and boys head out to the fields early, walking through morning dew, carrying tools that were made by hand and are heavy and awkward compared to modern equipment. Weeding is endless. Armed with a hoe, you chop out weeds that grow between the crop rows. Corn rows, bean rows, squash plants spreading along the ground. The weeds grow faster than the crops, and if you don't keep them under control, they'll choke out everything you planted. It's repetitive work. Chop, step, chop, step. Down one row, up the next. The sun gets hotter as the morning goes on. Sweat drips into your eyes. Your back starts to ache from bending over. Your hands blister from gripping the hoe. But you keep going because this is how you survive. There's actually something meditative about it once you get into the rhythm. Your mind wanders while your body works automatically. You think about nothing in particular. Just the sound of the hoe hitting dirt, birds singing, the warmth of the sun. Other farm work depends on what needs doing. Fences need mending. Animals need tending. Tools need sharpening. Firewood needs cutting. There's always something. Splitting firewood is a major task. Every family needs enormous amounts of firewood to cook and stay warm. Trees have to be cut down, the logs cut into manageable lengths, then split into pieces with an axe. It's hard, physical work that builds serious arm and shoulder muscles. The rhythm of splitting wood has its own satisfaction. The thunk of the axe biting into the log, the crack as the wood splits, the smell of fresh cut wood. It's tiring but rewarding. Taking care of animals is daily work that can't be skipped. The cow needs milking twice a day, morning and evening. Chickens need feeding and their eggs need collecting. Pigs need slop. Horses or oxen need feeding and grooming. The cow is especially important. That milk provides nutrition and can be turned into butter and cheese. So the cow gets treated relatively well. She has a name. People talk to her while milking. She's valuable. Chickens are semi-wild creatures that roam around the property, eating bugs and scraps. They're smarter than you'd think and can be surprisingly aggressive if they don't like you. Gathering eggs means reaching under cranky hens that might peck your hand. For women and girls, work is equally constant but different. The house and everything in it requires attention. Cooking is the big one. 3 meals a day, every day, all made from scratch over an open fire. We talked about breakfast. Lunch might be leftovers or bread and cheese. Dinner is the main meal, usually some kind of stew or roasted meat with vegetables. But besides cooking, there's spinning. Thread doesn't come from stores. It has to be made from raw wool or flax, and spinning it is time-consuming work. You sit at a spinning wheel, drawing out fibers and twisting them into continuous thread. It takes skill to keep the thread even and strong. The spinning wheel makes a soft humming sound as it turns. Women often sing or tell stories while spinning. It's work that keeps your hands busy but leaves your mind free. After thread is spun, it needs to be woven into cloth on a loom. This is even more complex. The loom is a wooden frame with parallel threads strung across it, and you pass other threads through them in patterns that create fabric. Operating a loom is like playing an instrument. Your hands and feet work together in rhythm. Once you have cloth, you can finally make clothes. All sewing is done by hand, stitch by tiny stitch. A woman might spend weeks making a single shirt. Every stitch has to be strong because these clothes need to last for years. Laundry happens occasionally, and it's genuinely miserable work. You heat large amounts of water over the fire, scrub clothes with harsh soap on washboards, rinse them in cold water, and wring them out by hand before hanging them to dry. It's exhausting and hard on your hands and back. Children have jobs too. Even little kids contribute to the family's survival. A 5-year-old can feed chickens and gather eggs. A 7-year-old can help with garden work or carry water. A 10-year-old can do serious farm work alongside adults. Kids don't really have a childhood as we understand it. There's some time for play, sure, but mostly they're learning the skills they'll need as adults. Boys learn their father's work. Girls learn from their mothers. Different families have different trades. A blacksmith spends his day at the forge, heating iron until it glows and shaping it with hammers. The heat is intense. The work is skilled. Every nail, every horseshoe, every tool has to be made by hand. A carpenter works with wood, using hand tools that require years to master, cutting joints that fit perfectly, shaping beams, building furniture or houses or whatever people need. A miller runs the grist mill where people bring their grain to be ground into flour. The miller takes a portion as payment, so it's a decent living, but it's dusty work, and the millstones are dangerous. Coopers make barrels, which are essential for storing everything from flour to salted meat to water. Shaping the curved staves and fitting them together is an art. The rhythm of work follows the sun. You start when there's enough light to see. You work through the morning, maybe break for a quick lunch, work through the afternoon, and stop when it gets too dark to continue. There's satisfaction in this work. At the end of the day, you can see what you've accomplished. Firewood stacked, crops weeded, clothes mended, food prepared. You've contributed something real and necessary to your family's survival. Your body is tired. Your muscles ache. Your hands might be blistered or cut, but you're also stronger than you realize. Capable, skilled. You know how to do things that most modern people have never learned. And tomorrow you'll get up and do it all again. Because that's life. Work, rest, repeat. Simple, hard, and strangely satisfying in its rhythms. Let's shift from farm life to town life for a bit, because not everyone lives on isolated farms. Some people live in actual towns, and life there is different in interesting ways. Walking into a colonial town is like stepping into a different world. The streets are narrow and usually unpaved. Just dirt that turns to mud when it rains and dust when it's dry. Houses are built close together, sometimes sharing walls. The sounds are more concentrated than on farms. You hear people talking, children playing, dogs barking, chickens wandering through the streets, the clop of horses' hooves, the rumble of cartwheels on packed dirt. The smells are more intense too. More people and animals in a smaller space means more concentrated odors. Cooking smells mix with animal smells, mixed with the general unwashed human smell, mixed with whatever the local businesses produce. If there's a tanner nearby, you'll definitely smell it. Tanning leather involves soaking animal hides in various nasty liquids, including urine and dog feces. It smells exactly as bad as you're imagining. Tanneries are usually located on the edge of town because nobody wants to live near that smell. The town center usually has a few key features. A church, obviously. That's often the biggest building. A general store where you can buy goods. A tavern where people gather. Maybe a blacksmith, a carpenter's shop, and other essential businesses. The general store is fascinating. It's a small building crammed with barrels, boxes, and shelves, holding everything from nails to fabric to imported spices. The storekeeper knows everyone in town and all their business. Buying something means negotiating, because prices aren't always fixed. You might trade goods instead of using money. Money exists, but it's not as common as you'd think. Coins are scarce. People often trade instead. A farmer might trade eggs or butter for fabric or nails. A craftsman might trade his work for food. It's a complex system of mutual exchange. The tavern is the social center of town life. It's not just a place to drink, though people definitely drink there. It's where business happens, where travelers stay, where news is shared, where community gatherings take place. Walking into a tavern, you're hit by warmth from the fireplace, the smell of cooking food and tobacco smoke, and the hum of conversation. The tavern keeper serves beer, ale, cider, and stronger drinks. Food is available too, usually whatever stew is cooking in the big pot over the fire. People drink a lot in Colonial America. Alcohol is often safer than water, especially in towns where wells might be contaminated. Everyone drinks with meals, even kids, though children get watered-down beer that's less alcoholic. Travel is slow and difficult. If you need to go to the next town, you walk or ride a horse if you're lucky enough to own one. There are no cars, no trains, no buses. Just your feet or an animal. Walking is the main form of transportation for most people. You walk everywhere, to the fields, to town, to visit neighbors. People think nothing of walking 10 or 15 miles in a day. Your feet get tough and calloused from all the walking. Horses are valuable and expensive. Owning a horse is a sign of some wealth. Horses need food and care, so they're an investment. But they make travel much faster and can carry loads that would be impossible for a person to carry. Wagons or carts, pulled by horses or oxen, are how you transport heavy goods. Loading a wagon with barrels of flour or tools or furniture and driving it to the next town is a major undertaking that takes all day. Roads are terrible. Just rutted paths, really. In spring, they turn into mud bogs where wagons get stuck. In winter, they might be frozen or snow. Traveling any distance is always an adventure. Communication is slow in ways that are hard to imagine now. If you want to send a message to someone in another town, you write a letter and give it to whoever's traveling that direction. They might deliver it, or they might give it to someone else who's going that way. Your letter might arrive in a few days or a few weeks. News travels slowly. Something that happened in Boston might not be heard about in Virginia for weeks. People are hungry for news when travelers arrive. What's happening in other colonies? What's the news from England? Any interesting gossip? Social interaction follows strict rules of etiquette. You greet people you know. You tip your hat to ladies. You show respect to elders and people of higher social status. Being rude or disrespectful is a serious breach of community norms. Men and women have separate social spheres. Men gather at taverns or do business together. Women visit each other's homes, help with large tasks like quilting or laundry, and share gossip and support. Church is where everyone comes together. Sunday services are mandatory, both legally and socially. Not showing up is noticed and commented on. Church is as much about community cohesion as it is about religion. After services, people linger outside the church, catching up on news, arranging marriages, discussing community matters, settling disputes. It's the weekly town meeting, basically, where the community connects and organizes itself. Life in towns has advantages. You're closer to shops and services. You have more social interaction. There's less isolation. But you also have less space, more rules, more social pressure to conform. Whether farm or town, life moves at the pace of walking. Nothing is instant. Nothing is rushed. Time is measured by the sun and the seasons, not by clocks. You learn patience because there's no alternative. Everything takes as long as it takes. And honestly, there's something peaceful about that. No deadlines except the ones nature imposes. No rush except the urgent tasks of survival. Just steady, patient work and the slow unfolding of days and seasons. Religion is huge in colonial America. Not just important, but absolutely central to daily life in ways that shape everything. Sunday is the big day. Everyone goes to church. Everyone, it's not optional. In many colonies, not attending church is actually illegal and can get you fined. But beyond the legal requirement, church is where community happens. The church building is usually the most impressive structure in town. Built with care and the best materials available. High ceilings, real windows, proper pews or benches for sitting. Services start in the morning and can last for hours. 2 hours is pretty normal. Sometimes longer if the minister really gets going. You sit on hard wooden benches with no cushions, in a building that's not heated even in winter. listening to a sermon that goes deep into theology and the constant battle between good and evil. The sermons are serious, fire and brimstone style, especially in Puritan communities. The minister talks about sin, damnation, redemption, and the need to live righteously. He uses fear of hell to encourage good behavior. It's intense and meant to be. Falling asleep during the sermon is a serious social crime. There are actually church officials whose job is to walk around with long poles, poking people who nod off. Getting poked awake in front of the whole congregation is embarrassing enough that most people manage to stay alert. But church isn't just about the sermon. There's singing too. Hymns sung by the whole congregation, usually without instruments because some religious groups think instruments are too fancy. The voices blend together, echoing off the walls, creating something beautiful and communal. The singing is one of the few times people get to make music together publicly. It's emotional and powerful. Even people who can't sing well join in. It's about participation, not performance. After service, everyone lingers outside. This is when you catch up with neighbors, arrange business deals, share news, and let your kids run around a bit. It's the main social event of the week for many people. Religious belief shapes daily life beyond just Sunday services. People pray before meals, thanking God for the food. They pray in the morning and evening. They see God's hand in everything that happens, good or bad. If the crops do well, it's God's blessing. If someone dies young, it's God's will. This worldview helps people cope with a life that's unpredictable and often harsh. Believing that suffering has divine purpose makes it easier to endure. Education is tied closely to religion. The main reason for teaching children to read is so they can read the Bible themselves. Religious literacy is the goal, with other learning being secondary. Wealthy families might hire tutors for their children, especially boys. These tutors teach Latin, Greek, mathematics, classical literature, and other subjects, meant to prepare boys for college and professional life. But most children learn at home or in informal dame schools. These are schools run by women, usually widows who need income in their own homes. A dozen kids of various ages sit in the woman's kitchen or parlor, learning basic reading, writing, and arithmetic. The teaching materials are minimal. Maybe a horn book, which is a wooden paddle with a printed alphabet, and the Lord's Prayer covered by a thin layer of horn to protect it. Maybe a Bible for reading practice. Maybe a slate and chalk for writing practice. Many children, especially on farms, get little or no formal education. They learn practical skills from their parents instead. How to farm, cook, sew, make things, fix things. Skills that will actually help them survive. For those who do learn to read, books are precious. Most families own only one book, the Bible. It's read and reread until everyone knows large sections by heart. The Bible serves as history, moral instruction, entertainment, and spiritual guidance all in one. Other books are incredibly expensive. They have to be imported from Europe or printed on hand-operated presses. Paper is made by hand, one sheet at a time. A single book represents months of skilled labor. If a family has other books, they're treasured and handled carefully. Maybe a book of sermons. Maybe an almanac with weather predictions and planting advice. Maybe a book of practical instruction on medicine or farming. Learning happens through oral tradition too. Stories passed down through generations. Folk tales, family histories, moral lessons, practical knowledge. all transmitted through telling and retelling. Grandparents are living libraries. They remember events, techniques, stories from decades past. Children learn by listening to grandparents talk, absorbing knowledge and history that isn't written down anywhere. Work itself is education. A boy learning to be a blacksmith doesn't read about it. He works alongside his father or a master craftsman for years, slowly absorbing the skills. A girl learning to cook doesn't follow recipes. She helps her mother day after day until she just knows. This kind of learning is slow and thorough. You don't just memorize facts. You develop deep practical knowledge that becomes instinct. Winter evenings are when families gather for storytelling. With darkness falling early and work finished, people sit by the fireplace. The adults might tell stories while children listen, wide-eyed in the firelight. These stories might be Bible stories, folk tales from the old country, local legends, or just tales about interesting things that happened to people in the community. The storyteller's voice rises and falls, creating drama and emotion, while shadows dance on the walls. This is entertainment, but it's also education. Stories teach moral lessons, preserve history, reinforce community values, and create shared cultural knowledge. Music and singing happen during these evening gatherings too. Someone might play a fiddle or wooden flute. Everyone joins in singing songs passed down through families. Work songs, ballads, hymns learned at church. The combination of religion, education, and oral tradition creates a culture where knowledge is valued but not separate from daily life. Learning isn't something that happens in school separate from real life. It's woven into everything you do. And while most people can't read complex texts or do advanced mathematics, they possess deep practical knowledge that keeps them alive and functioning in a challenging world. That's education too, just a different kind than we're used to. The afternoon in colonial America has a different quality than the morning. The urgent tasks are done. The rhythm slows just a bit. It's not that work stops. It doesn't. But there's often a shift from hard physical labor to quieter tasks that can be done in the shade or inside, where it's cooler in summer. The heat of the afternoon makes heavy labor almost unbearable. Smart workers take on tasks that don't require as much physical exertion during the hottest part of the day. A farmer might work on mending tools, sharpening hoe blades, fixing broken handles, oiling leather harnesses. These are necessary tasks that can be done sitting down, preferably under a tree where there's some breeze. Women might focus on handwork during afternoon heat, mending clothes, spinning thread, preparing vegetables for dinner. Work that keeps hands busy but doesn't require standing over a hot fire. The light in the afternoon is different, golden and warm, slanting through windows and making dust motes visible in the air. Everything looks softer, quieter, slower. Seasonal rhythms dominate colonial life in ways modern people rarely experience. Your whole life follows the cycle of seasons, and you're deeply aware of where you are in that cycle. Spring is about renewal and hope. The world coming back to life after winter's grey dormancy. Fields need ploughing. Seeds need planting. Gardens need starting. It's hard work but exciting because it represents potential. All those seeds will hopefully become food. The first green shoots, appearing in the garden, a cause for genuine celebration. Fresh food after months of dried and preserved winter stores. That first salad of spring greens tastes like life itself. Summer is about growth and maintenance. Crops growing tall. weeds needing constant control, gardens producing vegetables that need picking daily. It's hot work, but the abundance is satisfying. Food is fresh and varied. Long summer days mean extended working hours. You can work from before sunrise until well after sunset. The extra daylight is valuable, and people use every bit of it. Fall is about harvest and preparation. Everything ripens at once. Corn needs picking. Apples need gathering. Squash needs bringing in before frost. It's an all-hands situation where everyone works frantically to get the harvest completed before winter comes. There's excitement in fall, but also anxiety. Will there be enough food to last through winter? Have you preserved enough meat, dried enough vegetables, stored enough grain? The answers to these questions determine whether you'll be comfortable or hungry in the months ahead. Fall also brings community events. Corn husking bees where families gather to process corn together. Apple pressing parties where everyone helps make cider. Harvest festivals celebrating the year's agricultural success. Winter changes everything. The fields are dormant. Animals are penned close to the house or sheltered in barns. The world contracts into a smaller, colder, darker space. Winter work is different. Less agricultural, more maintenance. Men work on indoor projects, making tools, repairing furniture, carving wooden objects. Women focus on textile work, spinning, weaving, sewing the clothes that were cut out but not finished during busier seasons. The cold is a constant presence. You arrange your life around staying warm. You work near the fire when possible. You wear all your clothes in layers. You go to bed early because staying up means using expensive candles or lamp oil. Winter nights are long, really long. The sun sets at 4 or 5 in the afternoon. By 5 or 6, it's fully dark. That's a lot of darkness to get through before morning. Families gather around the fire. It's the only warm spot in the house. Everyone clusters close, doing handwork or just sitting and talking. These long winter evenings build family bonds because there's literally nothing else to do. Stories get told and retold. Family history, local legends, entertaining tales about neighbors. The same stories come around again each winter, but nobody minds. They're comforting in their familiarity. Winter is when you really feel the isolation if you're on a farm. Snow might make roads impassable for weeks. You don't see anyone outside your immediate family. You rely on what's stored in your cellar and hope it's enough. But spring always comes again. The cycle continues. Life renews. And colonists have learned to trust in these rhythms. They know that hard times pass. They know that patient work pays off. They know that nature follows reliable patterns. This deep connection to seasonal rhythms creates a different relationship with time. You don't fight against nature or try to control it. You work with it. You plant when the time is right, harvest when crops are ready, rest when darkness and cold dictate. There's wisdom in this. Less stress, maybe. You do what you can and accept what you can't control. The weather will do what it does. You adapt and carry on. The afternoon slowly transitions toward evening. Shadows grow longer. The air cools slightly. Birds start their evening songs. The quality of light changes from golden to amber to soft purple. Work continues, but with the awareness that the day is winding down. Soon it'll be time for supper, then the evening's quiet tasks, then sleep. Another day completed, Another small victory of survival in a world where nothing is guaranteed. Evening in colonial America arrives gradually. The sun sinks lower. Shadows stretch across the fields. The air cools. And everyone starts the slow process of winding down from the day's work. The first task is getting supper started. This usually falls to women, though everyone might help with preparation. Supper is often the heartiest meal of the day. After hours of physical labor, it might be a stew that's been cooking slowly all afternoon in that iron pot hanging over the fire. Chunks of meat, if you're lucky, vegetables from the garden or the root cellar, water or broth, maybe some herbs for flavor. It all simmers together into something filling and warm, or maybe it's cornbread and beans, or salt pork with boiled potatoes, or whatever combination of available food can be put together into something nourishing. The specific meal matters less than the fact that there is one. The family gathers for supper as the light fades. Everyone's tired. Hands are dirty from work. Clothes are dusty or mud-stained. But there's a moment of rest, sitting together, eating food that represents the family's labor and the earth's provision. Conversation during supper is usually quiet. People are tired, but there might be discussion about the day's work, plans for tomorrow, news from neighbors, or just comfortable silence. After supper comes the evening cleanup. Dishes need scraping clean. The fire needs tending. Scraps go to the pigs or chickens. The kitchen area gets put back in order for tomorrow. Then the evening's quiet work begins. This is work that doesn't require good light or heavy physical effort. Work that can be done by firelight while sitting down. Women might work on mending. There's always something that needs fixing. A torn shirt, a weak seam, a hole in a stocking. With needle and thread, she sits near the fire where the light is best, making tiny stitches that will keep clothes functional a bit longer. Or she might be knitting. Knitting by firelight is rhythmic and soothing. The needles click softly. The yarn slides through her fingers. Slowly, a sock or mitten takes shape. Her hands know the motions so well she barely needs to look. Men might work on small projects, carving a wooden spoon, sharpening tools, braiding leather straps for harnesses. Quiet work that keeps hands busy while the mind rests. Children might have small tasks too, winding yarn into balls, sorting dried beans, polishing pewter plates, or they might just sit near the fire, listening to adult conversation, gradually getting drowsy. The fire is the center of everything now. It's the only source of light and warmth. Everyone clusters around it because moving away means entering cold darkness. The firelight creates an intimate space. Faces are illuminated in warm orange light. Everything beyond the fire's circle fades into shadow. It's cozy and slightly magical. If the family can afford it, there might be a candle or two. Candles are made from animal fat or beeswax, and both are expensive. You don't light them unless you really need the extra light. A single candle doesn't provide much light, just a small, flickering flame that barely illuminates the area right around it. But it's precious light, carefully rationed. Lamp oil is another option, though also expensive. A simple oil lamp is just a small dish of oil with a wick floating in it. The flame is small and smoky, but provides a bit of light. Mostly, though, people just use the firelight. It's free and it's always there. Your eyes adjust to the dimness. You learn to do things by feel as much as by sight. Evening is when storytelling happens. With the work done and everyone gathered, it's natural for stories to emerge. An adult might tell a tale they heard, or recount something interesting that happened in the past. Children love these stories. They sit quietly, soaking up the words, imagining the scenes being described. These stories become part of their knowledge, part of the family's shared history. Sometimes there's singing. A mother might sing a lullaby to young children. The family might sing hymns together, or someone might know ballads or folk songs that everyone joins in on. The music fills the small house, voices blending together in harmony. It's simple entertainment that doesn't cost anything and brings the family together. As the evening progresses, exhaustion catches up with everyone. Eyes get heavy. Yawns become more frequent. The fire burns lower because it doesn't need to be so hot anymore. One by one, family members prepare for bed. This doesn't take long. You're already wearing most of what you'll sleep in. Maybe you remove your outer layer of clothing. Maybe not. The room is cold once you move away from the fire. You hurry to bed, trying to minimize time in the freezing air. Those straw mattresses suddenly seem appealing because at least they're a place to curl up. Children might sleep in the loft, climbing a ladder to the space under the roof. It's cold up there, but they burrow into quilts and each other's warmth. Adults might have a real bed in a small, separate room, or they might sleep near the fire for warmth. In winter, everyone tries to sleep as close to the heat source as possible. Before sleep, there are prayers, thanking God for the day, for safety, for food, for family, asking for protection through the night. This religious practice bookends the day, creating a rhythm of faith that structures time. The fire is banked for the night. Coals are covered with ashes to keep them alive, but reduce the flames. You want some coals to survive until morning so you don't have to restart the fire from scratch. Darkness settles fully over the house. Outside, it's completely black. No street lights, no neighbors' lights, nothing. Just pure darkness. Inside, the dim red glow from banked coals provides the tiniest bit of light. Just enough to see shadows and shapes if your eyes are adjusted. The sounds of nighttime emerge. Wind in trees, the hoot of an owl, distant animal sounds, the creaking of the house settling. These sounds are normal and somehow comforting. Everyone's breath slows. Bodies relax into rest. The day is over. Tomorrow will bring more work, but for now, there's only sleep. Night in colonial America is profoundly dark. Modern people don't really experience darkness like this anymore. There are no street lights, no light pollution, no electronic glows, just absolute blackness. If you step outside on a moonless night, you can't see your hand in front of your face. You literally cannot see anything. It's disorienting and a little unnerving if you're not used to it. But inside the house, you've settled into bed. Your body is exhausted from a day of physical labor. Your muscles ache in that satisfying way that comes from good, honest work. The bed is uncomfortable by modern standards. Those ropes have stretched even more throughout the day. The straw mattress is lumpy and pokey, but you're so tired that it doesn't matter much. Sleep comes easily when you've worked hard. The nighttime sounds become more noticeable as you lie there. Wind whistling through cracks in the walls. The pop and crackle of coals in the fireplace. The rustle of other family members shifting in their sleep. Outside, you might hear an owl calling. The distant howl of wolves or coyotes. Small animals scurrying around. These sounds connect you to the wildness that still surrounds colonial settlements. Sometimes, You wake briefly during the night. It's cold. Your nose is icy from the air. But the rest of you is warm under layers of quilts and blankets. Maybe with another family member close by for shared heat. You might need to use the chamber pot. This means leaving the warmth of bed, feeling around in the dark, handling the cold ceramic pot, then hurrying back to bed as fast as possible. Or you might just lie there, warm and drowsy, listening to the sounds of night. Your mind wanders in that half-asleep way, thinking about nothing in particular, just existing in the quiet darkness. There's something about the completeness of the darkness that affects sleep. Without artificial light to disrupt your rhythms, your body follows natural patterns. You sleep deeply. You wake with the sun. It's a more natural cycle. Dreams come and go. Maybe you dream about the day's work. Your sleeping mind processing the physical motions your body repeated hundreds of times. Or maybe random, strange dreams that don't make particular sense. Colonial people think about dreams differently than we do. They see them as potentially meaningful, messages from God, or warnings, or prophecies. A vivid dream might be discussed the next day, analyzed for meaning as you drift between sleep and waking. There's time for reflection about the life you're living. The constant work, yes, but also the moments of satisfaction. The warmth of the fire, the taste of fresh bread, the laughter of children, the strength of community. Life is hard here, genuinely hard in ways modern people can barely imagine. No modern medicine, no safety nets, no guarantees. Disease, injury, crop failure, harsh weather. Any of these could mean disaster, but there's also a simplicity to it. You know what needs doing. You do the work. You take care of your family and your neighbors. You live according to the rhythms of nature and the seasons. There's clarity in that. The self-reliance required is both burden and source of pride. You're not depending on systems and infrastructure beyond your understanding. You know how to do things, how to make fire, grow food, build shelter, create tools. That knowledge makes you capable in deep ways. Community bonds are stronger here than in modern times. You genuinely need your neighbors. They need you. This creates relationships based on mutual dependence and support. You help with barn raisings and harvest. They help you when you need it. There's less privacy but more connection. You know everyone in your community. You're part of something larger than yourself. Your work contributes to collective survival. As sleep deepens, consciousness fades into that peaceful nothingness. Your breathing slows. Your body relaxes completely. The sounds of night continue around you, but you're beyond noticing them now. The night passes slowly. Hours of darkness and rest. Your body recovering from today's efforts and preparing for tomorrow's. This is essential time. Without it, you couldn't maintain the pace of colonial life. Eventually, gradually, light begins to return. The darkness outside shifts from black to dark grey to lighter grey. Dawn is approaching. Inside the house, nothing moves yet. Everyone is still sleeping. The coals in the fireplace glow faintly under their covering of ash. The cold is intense, waiting to ambush whoever gets up first. But soon, someone will stir. Probably the woman of the house. She forces herself out of warm blankets into cold air. She uncovers those coals and coax them back into flame. She'll start the daily cycle again, and you'll wake to another morning in colonial America. Another day of work and survival. Another day of small satisfactions and constant effort. Another day of being part of a community, creating something new in this challenging land. The cycle continues. Days into weeks, weeks into seasons, seasons into years. The same rhythms repeated over and over. Work, rest, eat, sleep. Birth, life, death, new birth. The endless turning of the wheel. And in this repetition, there's meaning. Each day's work matters. Each season's harvest is crucial. Each person's contribution makes survival possible. Nothing is wasted. Everything counts. As you drift in these last moments before morning truly arrives, there's peace. Peace in knowing your place in this world. Peace in understanding that you're doing your part. Peace in the simple fact of being alive for another day. Soon you'll open your eyes. The new day will begin. But for now, for these last quiet moments, you rest. Warm enough, safe enough, part of a family and community that takes care of its own. And that's enough. In colonial America, being alive and together and managing to survive another day is actually a lot. It's everything, really. Sleep well.